Welcome to the Do More, Stress Less podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Hasselberger, a time management and productivity coach. In every episode, I give you actionable, practical tips to help you learn to use your time in a way that feels good to you every day. No more hustling, scrambling, or struggling to keep your head above water. So let's dive in, and soon enough, you'll be doing more and stressing less. A not insignificant part of my role as a coach is to notice, to highlight, and to celebrate the growth and change I see in my clients. Why? Well, it's often quite hard to see your own growth. You're just too close to it, and you're busy doing other things. That said, it's been a while since I did a little reflection on my own growth. And you know what? It turns out that I have learned some things over the last 6 years that I have been at this full time. And I want to share a few of these learnings with you. I actually meant to write this, to record this on the 5th anniversary of my business, but I was dealing with a little thing called cancer back then that got in the way. And so better late than never, right? So let's get started. When I started this business, I had no idea if I'd be able to do it. To start and build and grow a business into something sustainable, something that supports my family. Before that, I had only ever been an employee with a stable paycheck. That's what I was used to. But I firmly believe in experimentation. And so I tried it. And 6 years later, I am really proud of what I've been able to accomplish, but more specifically, of how many people that I have been able to help to learn to use their time in a way that feels really good every day. And so, in no particular order, I want to share with you what I have learned that you might find helpful the next time you're facing a big, unknowable challenge that you're not quite sure that you can tackle successfully. So, here's the thing. First lesson, you do not have to have it all figured out from the get-go. You just don't. Today, my business is comprised of sort of 5 verticals, right? I have one-on-one coaching, I have a group coaching program, I have team trainings and workshops, I have online courses, and I have a consulting arm where I help companies and organizations to figure out, what is, maybe going wrong in terms of time management, wellness, burnout, and what they can do about that from an organizational policy perspective. But when I got started, I did not have all of those things. In fact, I had none of those things. And I only had a vague idea of even one of them, and that was one-on-one coaching. Everything else came in stride, and it happened pretty organically, actually. So I developed the curriculum for my first coaching program just on the fly after I got my first client. He didn't know that, of course, at the time, but he got great results and he started sending referrals my way, and I was able to really refine that coaching process. I built out that program literally 1 week at a time, just in advance of delivery. You don't have to figure it out all at once. I then later developed a group coaching program because I started having a months-long wait list for one-on-one coaching, and I wanted to be able to help people now. I wanted to be able to do that in a way that also didn't take more hours from me. And so I developed that program. And then I started developing workshops when a client asked me if I could. They said, "Oh, you're doing this for me. Could you do this for my team?" And so now I have 20 plus workshops and trainings, and I create new ones as needed and as requested. I got into online courses because somebody reached out to me from Udemy and they asked me to create one. And I will forever be grateful and in debt to them for seeking me out, because now I can't even imagine my world without online courses, something I hadn't even thought of before. In fact, I had never taken an online coach when they reached out to me, or an online course when they reached out to me. And now I can't even believe I get to say this, but over 155,000 people have taken my online courses. And I get to hear messages every day that literally tell me that these courses and working with me has changed their lives. And I don't take that lightly or say that to toot my own horn. I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to help folks. But I never would have thought about that from the beginning, right? I had no idea that online courses would be a part of what I was doing. All right, let's move on to lesson number 2. And this is somewhat related, but it's just start. Just start. You do not need to wait until you have things perfected, because that is impossible anyways. If you wait until you have things perfected, you won't do anything, right? Because you'll never get there. Perfection is not real. It's not something we can do.
I think it was Reid Hoffman who said, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, then you've launched too late. And I've really taken that to heart. When I look at some stuff that I was doing a few years ago, my face flushes a little bit, right? I feel like, oh, I thought this was good at the time. And it was good at the time. But now I'm doing things that are better. I thought that was good at the time. Yes, I did. But the fact that I'm now putting things into the world that I feel like are so much better than where I started, that's not cause for embarrassment anymore. That's actually cause for pride because I can see how much I have actually grown. Now, lesson number 3 is break it down to get it done. So you've got to start, right? But it can be hard to start when you feel like, oh, there's just so much to do. I've done so many things over the last 6 years that I had never done before and that I never even contemplated doing. And I did not know how to do any of them. I definitely didn't have a start to finish plan for any of them. At best, I had a rough idea of the phases and sometimes only a rough idea of the goal. But I didn't let that stop me because here's one thing that I know for sure, and that's that I can figure out anything one step at a time. And so can you. If I can identify the very next step and do that, then the next step after that reveals itself, and so on until the thing is done. Let me repeat that. You do not need to know all the steps in advance. You just need to know the very next one. And I sincerely believe that you can do that. Now, the fourth lesson is that you're going to need colleagues or community members, even if you are staunchly independent. Even if, you're not starting a business, you're starting a project, you're starting a new hobby, you're starting something, right? You are going to need people. And I say this as somebody who is very staunchly independent. Um, I'm about to say something, in fact, that might be a little controversial. I am not exactly what you might call a quote team player. Now, this is not to say that I'm not collaborative or that I don't work well with others. I am, and I do. Or at least that's what my managers always said on my performance reviews. But I don't prefer working on a team. I actually like working alone a lot, like a lot, a lot. Now, of course, I work with other people. I have contractors who do things in my business. But the important thing was that I needed other peers who were doing things that I was doing. When you're running something on your own, alone can be very, very lonely. You need sounding boards, you need feedback, you need a place to vent, to commiserate, and to celebrate. And so I sought out and I found a community of other coaches, of consultants, of solopreneurs. And now I have more than a handful of people who I consider not just colleagues, but real friends and with whom I can chat about business and learn from. And, in other areas of my life, I found this as well. You may have heard me talking about the fact that I started doing pottery several months ago. And, I've made some pottery friends as well. And that's also super helpful because we can learn from each other, share with each other, celebrate our successes, and also commiserate about the things that don't go as well, because there will be that stuff also. So even if it's not a business, but it's a project or a hobby or it's anything that you're embarking on, being in community with other people, I have found to be essential. Now, the last lesson here is, I think, the one that was the hardest for me, and I think it's the hardest for a lot of people. And it is that you just have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And maybe you'll never get totally comfortable with that, but you have to do uncomfortable things. I have done so many uncomfortable things. I had to get inured to this discomfort. In fact, my new favorite cheesy quote is, there is no growth in the comfort zone. And holy smokes, if that is not true. Here is just a list, a small list of the incredibly uncomfortable things that I've done along the way that helped me to get where I am today. So, first thing was, when I started this business, I emailed every single person whose email address I had to let them know that I was starting a new business, who I served, and how to reach out to me. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. I emailed people I hadn't spoken to since high school, and the insurance agent from a job I had 10 years ago, and a person I met in the back of an Uber pool. Remember when that was a thing? Thanks, COVID, for ruining such a good thing. But I knew that the best way for me to grow was for people to know that I existed. And if I didn't tell people that I existed and what I was doing, they would not know that, right? So, did I turn some people off along the way? Probably, right? But did this get me my first few clients when I was getting started? Yes. Yes, it did. Sending emails, letting you know how I can help you. That is also, if you're not on my email list, go ahead and get on it because you will get actionable tips every single week. You can check the show notes and you can just click that link, but it's alexishasselberger.com/subscribe, and you will get on my email list. And I put so much value in there. It's something that I enjoy doing every single week. It's actually the first thing I do every Monday is I write a blog post and I send it out to everyone who is on my email list, and with all of the things that I am learning that I think can help you, tactics, tools, etc. So if you're not on there, go get on there. But there's also something else that happens in this email list, and that I sometimes need to tell folks what I am when I have services available, right? And that was hard for me. It was a big jump for me to get to the point where I didn't feel like I was like bothering people for sending an email about something that I had to offer. And honestly, sometimes it feels a little uncomfortable still. But I have to remind myself every day that my primary goal is to help busy, overwhelmed people learn to use their time in a way that feels good and supports their goals and values. And I have to remind myself that I can't help you if you don't know that I can help you or that I'm available to help you, right? It doesn't help anyone for me to just sit in a vacuum not talking about that stuff, even though it's somewhat uncomfortable to do. Another uncomfortable thing that I've done is go to conferences with a big old stack of business cards, determined to introduce myself to that many people, right? This is something that helped me to just get comfortable talking about what I do. It was super uncomfortable. It is still sometimes uncomfortable. I am an introvert, and maybe it will never not be uncomfortable, but that's okay because in order to grow anything and to have connections and to find people that will support you and that you can support, you need to talk to people, right? And that's something that I had to learn. Now, whatever is uncomfortable for you might be very different things, right? But lean into whatever it is that is making you uncomfortable because there's likely good stuff on the other side. Now, while no one, of course, is handing me any sort of award, I mean, if you want to give me one, I'll take it. That's no reason for me not to thank the people who have helped me along the way. And so I want to take this moment to just thank a few people as well. My clients and students for allowing me the opportunity to do exactly what I want to be doing with you. To all those colleagues and friends who provide insight, feedback, support, and encouragement. To my husband, actually, for never hesitating in his support of me to take a risk and start this big, scary thing. And for being the primary parent during the pandemic when my schedule was so packed with folks who needed my help that I was in back-to-back sessions, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And lastly, to my parents, right? Their praise and support. And they always send me, copy edits every time I write something. And I'm always waiting to hear just how many times I have failed to use the Oxford comma, right? So what's next, right? Where else can I apply these lessons? Well, I want to share with you a little bit about what's next for me, in case this is of any interest, right? I want to write a book. That's something I'm putting out there into the universe because I think that will help it become real. Are you a book editor? Are you a literary agent? Do you work for a publisher? Do you know anyone who does? Please hit me up because I may need your help in the immediate future. And if you just have any advice for me, like you've published a book in the past, send that along. I want to learn from you. You're my people too. Online courses. I want to create more of them. It turns out I love creating online courses and I want to do more of it. In fact, I've recently launched a self-paced DIY online version of my coaching programs. You can check that out in the show notes as well if that's something that you haven't heard of. But if you have something where you're like, I would love Alexis to create a course about X, Y, or Z, send that to me. Let me know because I want to make exactly what you need. And I want you to tell me more of what you want. I want you to help me help you. So tell me, for this podcast, for my blog posts, for online courses, like, what topics are you interested in? What should I write about? What should I talk about? What are you aching to solve for yourself? Let me know so that I can create exactly what you want and what you need.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of the Do More, Stress Less podcast. If you found today's episode helpful, please share it with somebody who could use a little less stress in their life. And make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're excited to take action or you need a little extra support, check out the free resources available on my website or schedule a free consultation call with me. You can do both of these at alexishasselberger.com. See you next time.